Hello everybody, my name is Antoinette. I am a multimedia artist and I just wanted to make this because I have it written out like on my site, like my artist bio and all of that, but I feel like it's just different hearing it from me. So let's just yap and chat and I can tell you a little bit about my artist journey, where we been, where we going, where we at, all that good stuff. This is literally my favorite story to tell because I just always am in awe when I think about how my artist journey started. So just to backtrack, I was super creative growing up. Like I was that kid, that art kit for Christmas. Yeah, I was making like the little loom. You could do the little hats. I was doing the pot holders. I was doing the little friendship bracelets, the lanyards. Y'all remember those little lanyards with you do the little crisscross like that? I used to do that. I used to like edit pictures and stuff for people's MySpaces in middle school. So I just always loved that kind of stuff growing up. And literally in 4th grade, me and my friend illustrated, it was like a 4-part book series. We wrote and illustrated a 4-part book series. And so it's just like I look back and I see just so much creativity in my life. Even though like people around me have recognized it as well, I think I never knew that there was a possibility to even do anything with it. And so kind of what that turned into is eventually along my life, and my testimony is a whole different story for a whole different day, but ended up just kind of going down a bad path. And I remember in that time, just especially like in high school, it felt like everybody else knew what they wanted to do. And for me, I think I was just going through so much at that time. And especially after high school, I just remember feeling literally like directionless and almost like purposeless. And ended up having my son at 19, and that completely changed my life. Even though I didn't necessarily know, obviously I was 19, I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something more for him. And so, you know, kind of just working, doing all that, I ended up going back to school in 2019. So really when everything kind of started shifting and turning around, so that was 2017 when I had him, and that just completely changed my life, obviously, as having a child does. That's a big life change. And then 2018 comes around, and at the time we were living out of state, ended up moving back home. And I think that was just a huge shift for me. It was just the first time in my life I feel like I really got to know me. I kind of became just like a stay-at-home mom for the first time. And at the time, my son was maybe like a 1.5 years. And so the thing about me is, you know, I feel like we had like exhausted all of our options. I was really not trying to be a YouTube CoComelon mom, iPad mom. So I was just always trying to find things to do with him. And if you've ever stayed home with a toddler for more than a day, you eventually start to like run out of stuff to do. The park probably knew us by name, right? We would go to the beach every day, all these things. And so I think eventually I kind of got to a place, especially when winter came around, of like, I don't know what to do anymore. So we just kind of started doing crafts. I got really big into Pinterest. And so my very first craft that I ended up doing with him, well, besides just like giving him a brush and some paint, was doing, it was a hand and footprint calendar. And so literally I can maybe insert some pictures, but it was literally like these little tiny feetsies, and or like his little hands, then you make a little picture out of it. And truly that's what we would do for most of the day. And then when he was napping, because obviously there's some parts of it I can't do while he's just like running around, so I would find myself like waking up early to work on it, or staying up late to work on it, like after he had went to bed or while he was sleeping. And I think what it turned into is it really was just like a form of therapy for me. So then fast forward, I finished the calendar. I was like, oh, that was super fun, that was super cool. But then now I don't have anything creative to do. So obviously that was for the holidays. Ended up getting all those out, which if you got one of those, I pray that you still have it and that you appreciate that gift. That gift ended up turning out way more expensive than I intended it to. I digress. But then fast forward to January 2019, after all that had passed, I think it was a couple weeks, and I was like, oh cool, that was just like a fun little project. I had remembered an idea just for like a painting idea that we had done literally in middle school. It was like a combination of the grid method and using, I believe it's like almost like posterized kind of in Photoshop. And so I was like, you know what, let's give it a try, because I'll insert a picture here. This was actually the very first painting I ever did that I liked. It even got hung up in my middle school in the hallways. And so I was like, you know what if we tried that again? I already knew what picture I wanted to do it with. I had this super cute picture of my son, and so like, let's just try it. let's just try it. Nobody even has to know. So I do it for my first painting, like my first photo painting. I think it actually came out pretty dope, especially for it being a portrait. Only thing is I didn't want to post it because I didn't want people to like think I was an artist. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want people to start expecting that from me now, so I just never posted it. At finish, I was like, that was a cool little project. That's it. Then a month later, or maybe it was like a couple weeks later, but I was like, I should try it out with my best friend's dog. Transparently, this is where, guys, this is where painting really taught me to trust the process, because I tried to do it the same way I did the other one. It did not work. It did not work. That's why that one, it ended up turning into like blue. Like, it looks really dope, like, and it looks like I did that intentionally. I didn't. I actually wanted it to be like neutral colors, like realistic. It did not turn out like that, so we had to pivot. I'll insert pictures. We had to pivot. So that went through a whole long journey. And then just from there, my mom was posting it. My friends were posting it, all of that. I was not posting it. It was everybody else posting it for me. I was still afraid to be posting. I don't want y'all to think I'm an artist. Okay, I don't want y'all to think I'm an artist, because I'm not. I just like to do this for fun. And then eventually I ended up making my first sale. Then from there, it was literally just like, really, it was my mom's friends. Shout out to them, because they really were ride or dies. And then it turned into, hey, could you try this? Hey, could you try that? And I think I was like, I'll just give it a shot. Before I knew it, it ended up turning into something where low-key I would get a little bit offended when people didn't post it, but it's also like, you're not even posting it. So then I took it upon myself to start posting it. I ended up making my Facebook business page, all of that stuff. It was something that started so small. It started just as an idea. And so that was literally my life from 2021 up until 2018 to 2021. And literally all I was on, I think, was like Facebook and Instagram. Then I think where it really popped off was on TikTok, and that was when I made, in 2021, when I made the butterfly painting. And from there, it was really just like, I was having so much fun just like sharing the process. Like, it really was my like visual art diary or whatever it is, and I would document the whole process. And I think what I didn't realize at the time was a couple things. Was that, one, you have to really be careful with social media. I didn't realize like you kind of are pursuing content creation, and if you're not careful, you can start to forget why you even started doing what you were doing in the first place. And even though I think something that, now I know it was the Lord, but that I was realizing at that time was that like you have to detach from the numbers, because they are going to shift, and like you can't create for the algorithm. And I know that like some people would probably speak against that, but I truly believe like the way to be sustainable on social media is to just be yourself, and to just share you, and to just share the ideas that you have. And yes, there's trends, and yes, you could probably, I don't know, rig the algorithm, whatever, but I just truly feel like that's a quick route to get burnt out, especially if you don't actually enjoy that. And so I think that that's kind of something I went through around that time, and definitely at the same time battling with like imposter syndrome on top of like stuff I was going through in my own life. So all of this, long story short, all this to say, all this kind of mixed up into, at the end of 2021, 2022, I just kind of went through this slump and this like dark depression. And I framed it as me taking a break from social media. And I would always like make these jokes that it's like, kind of like, you know, for New Year's, my resolution is to just create in peace. And I would just make jokes like this, but I was actually for real. Like, I was starting to lose heart for what I was doing. And so I ended up taking a month off. And I think what I wish it would have been was a time of peace and restoration. But what it really was that I was struggling, and I was really struggling with my mental health at that time. I wasn't creating. I wanted to actually walk away from art altogether. And yeah, so that was a really, really dark month. Really, really dark month. And then fast forward to February, I kind of started getting back into it, started doing art shows. That's a whole different story for a whole different day. It did not turn out very good, to say the least. And so this was around like February, March 2021, and a whole different story for a whole different day. But around this time, the Lord was pursuing me. Ended up getting into a Christian college, which that's a whole different testimony. But the only reason I had went there is because they were the only college in my whole state that was going to take most of my credits from my associates. And so I ended up going there literally just for the fact of that. That was it. And I was like, okay, it's a Christian school. Like, worst comes to worst, I'll have to take a theology course. And then literally, this is really how naive I was. I was like, I've seen VeggieTales. So that's a whole different story for a whole different day. But at this time, the Lord really was pursuing me. And it's funny because also at this time, like I said, I was just going through this dark depression. Also the enemy was pursuing me. Like, I was just getting into a bunch of things I had no business getting into, in crowds I had no business being in, simply because I was trying to get myself out of this slump, and I was trying to get my artist self back, and just find love for what I was doing again. And I ended up kind of finding that in the wrong places. And so both of these things are going on at the same time. And then it's so crazy because kind of where it was like pivotal for me was in April 2022. So that's when I started my classes in the beginning of April. And then my very first time at my home church was April 17th, 2022. And it's so crazy. This is, again, a whole different story for a whole different day. But I was actually supposed to have an art event that day that, long story short, just didn't end up happening. And that really was the Lord, because so that was Easter 2022. And at this time, I did not know Jesus. I had grown up in church. This is, again, a whole different story for a whole different day, but just to give a whole little backtrack. I did not know Jesus. I did not know the Lord. I really did not know much, even though I had grown up in church. We were a Sunday, literally not even it was just a Sunday morning faith and VeggieTales. That was literally all. So I didn't know much, and maybe my siblings have a different story, but as for me, if you would have asked me who Jesus was like 5 years ago, I probably would have just said Christians. I didn't know. All this to say, I ended up going to this church service, changed my life. And I kind of had just made a decision in that moment that it's like, this is something I kind of want to see about. Because at that time I was seeing about other things. I was like, I just felt like, yeah, I need to be here. The only problem was it was a little bit far from me. Didn't have a car at the time, but I was like, you know what? I could tune in online. So I did that for about 6 months, maybe. They ended up getting to their new building. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go check it out. This whole time I was creating and I was doing that, but I just I just wasn't feeling it like I used to. And so I was going through the motions and doing all the things while, kind of pursuing the Lord in the meantime. And then so strongly in September 2022, I just felt like, kind of like, you need to let it go. Now this is so clear in hindsight, but I was trying so hard to replicate what it was that I was missing what it was supposed to be. I literally just kind of let it go. I was like, I trust you. End up walking away, or slowly transitioning. I think I didn't completely walk away until like November 2022. During this time, I was also kind of launching my podcast. So kind of starting to do that. And I think it was just like not until December 2021 when I just completely surrendered everything. And ended up doing my first fast then, getting baptized January 2023. At that time, I literally had gotten rid of all of my art stuff, so I was not creating. I was, just kind of going about my life the way it was. So fast forward to January 2023, I get a call from a random pastor. Well, not a random pastor, Pastor Jason. What's up? He's not a random pastor now, but I legit thought it was a prank call. I was like, who sent you? Because I don't even paint anymore. They lied. Anyways, they needed a mural redone. It was just a touch up. And honestly, I was not super confident in it because I had never done a mural before, and I also hadn't painted in a couple months. But I was like, you know what? I'll come check it out. And the Lord kind of used that at that time, because it was also like, at this time I wasn't on social media. So I was just wiped off the earth. It was really a time when I just like started creating for me. I started making little like comic strips. I literally started this little almost like book thing of like how to draw a face. I was like, I just want to learn how to sketch, because all I had really done was painting. And so just like really a time for me to dive into my creativity, completely detached from what anybody was expecting from me or like any expectations. And then what that ended up turning into was we did a couple murals for that space. Then when they opened up their new location, I kind of did like the creative direction, which was so incredible. Like I literally remember walking in, I'm like, why do you trust me with this? But I'm glad that they did, because it ended up turning out incredible. And it was an incredible opportunity for me. I got to work with some of the students that were interested in art. They got to have a little part in it. And it was just so cool to see everything tied in together. And so then also around that time, my mom started taking her crochet stuff more seriously. And I just had an idea for a logo. And so I remember I tried to do it. And a friend had also reached out to me. Those two things, not being able to do it, was one, defeating, but two, super motivational. Because I was like, no, I want to learn how to do it. So I ended up doing my mom's logo, her complete branding, her signage and all that for her like pop-ups, all of that kind of stuff. And I kind of adopted myself as her social media manager, her manager, all that good stuff. Started just overseeing all of her stuff, ended up building out her website, and I still do, so go give her a follow. I still do her socials. But I think that really just opened me up to that. So then I was like, wait, I really love this. At this time, again, still not on socials. So I ended up going to school for graphic design in the fall of 2023. And I just fell in love with it instantly and got to create so many cool little projects. I did not complete it, but I ended up taking like what I felt like was all the like essential courses. Because also at the time I started serving with my church, where I felt like I was practically putting into use everything that I was learning. So I ended up doing that for a couple years. And then in this time, I don't remember when this was, but when I thought about coming back, and y'all, this is why you have to walk with the Lord, because it's so funny, because this actually, you're probably thinking this could be something great, but it was just like I consider every single pivot a direction from him. And so I was thinking about coming back to social media. Didn't know exactly what that would look like. I log into my TikTok, kind of just have it active, because I think I just had it deactivated for a while. I don't remember what this timeline was, but my TikTok ended up getting hacked and deleted. Completely, like not even deactivated, completely deleted. And what I kind of felt like it was like a release of everything that was. Like, yes, I had built this page and I think it was almost at 8K, and I had done all these things, but I just felt like it felt like a reminder to me that it's like I'm doing a new thing. I cannot build off of that. It almost felt like he was like solidifying my foundation. And so once that deleted, I just had so much peace about it. And so then after that, I just took it upon myself to completely delete my Instagram. And then I took that kind of as my sign to like, okay, we're not going back to social media yet. Like, obviously this is the Lord saying there's still stuff that needs to be done. Like, it's not time. And so I kind of like gave that a break for a little bit. And then recently I just kind of was like praying about like, you know, what that would look like. I ended up talking to my pastor about it, low-key hoping that he would say no, and he would say that's a bad idea. But he actually said the opposite. He was like, if you're feeling that on your heart, there might be an audience God's wanting you to reach. And so he's like, while you're making content, obviously be keeping the Lord in mind, but be keeping in mind keeping in mind, I don't remember how he said it, but kind of like how I took it was the content you would have needed. And so I think that's kind of what I've adapted my socials into. So then with that, I just felt like what I was going to do was transform, because also my private Instagram was literally just friends and family that ended up, it's not growing, but like it was literally like 20 followers. And so, but I was like, oh, I could just convert this to my art page. And it kind of felt like they were saying, no, like I'm doing a new thing. Like, as far as what's next, my goal is to just build an artist community and like just like a supportive place, a transparent place. Because I think a lot of times what people do on socials is obviously they share their highlight reels, which I suppose that's what it's for. But I think the biggest thing I want to do is show people that it's not as hard as it looks, not to build your socials, but to just like be yourself. And I think there's a lot of people that they burn out because they're being too different. Like, they have their persona that they put out, and even in real life that they put out to people, then they have them. But I think what I really want my socials to be is a reflection of me and everything that God's created me to be. And before, I think the problem is I would just put myself in a box, and I was a painter, and that's it. But I think it's like now I do like my hair content. I love Jesus, so I talk about my faith. I have not just painting, but design and video editing, all those things, creative direction, like just all of that stuff. And so I think that sometimes we limit ourselves and what we could do based on that. So all of this to say, if that sounds interesting, you go follow me. Hey, Age of the Artist across all platforms. But for real, I'm hoping that this was just like an inspiration to somebody. Literally, I always say this, but trust the process, that you may not know, or you may not even understand where you are. Sometimes transparently, I don't even know if I should say that. But I really just have to trust that all of this is working out into something, and I may not be able to see how every single piece is going together. Jeez Louise. But how every single piece is going together, but I'm trusting that it is. And so yeah, I hope this was encouraging, and hope it kind of helped you get to know me a little bit, and me as an artist, and just me all together. So yeah, and also helped you to learn the goodness of God and trusting him in the process. And I think that that is my prayer through every single thing that I do. Don't look at me, I'll Lord him, because I truly would not be here if it was not for him. Again, different story for a different day, but either way, I hope you'll have a great one. Okay, that's it. Bye.